YouTube, Awesome Rider here, coming at you with my second episode review for Kamen Rider Zeztz, and I'm still really quite enjoying myself. However, I have to say, even though I'm very much interested in the show and I'm invested, I'm having that little weird intermittent period where I'm having a hard time feeling this as the main show, if that makes any sense. I don't know if any of you guys know what I'm talking about. When one Sentai or Rider ends and another begins, there's that period of time where it doesn't feel like that's the main show you're thinking of, kind of like the home base. Like with Gav, I think last year I had a better transition because I wasn't invested in Gotchard, so I was very quickly able to be absorbed into the Gav world, whereas I liked Gav so much. Not that I'm like, oh, I miss Gav, and who's the Zeztz guy? You're not my real dad. It's just like, it feels weird. I think it's also because I've been watching it live at night instead of waiting until like Sundays or Mondays whenever I usually watch these alongside Go Juju, so it feels like I'm watching something so different. And so there's this weird disassociation. And it is kind of neat watching it like as appointment television, as if it was something on TV. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because I thought it was kind of interesting. And I'm sure some of you have had that experience where it takes a minute for you to feel like Zeztz is the main show in your head, you know, saying goodbye to The Last Rider. But this episode started things off with a bang. You know, pun intended, I guess, because there's a bomb in this episode. And you're dropped right into the middle of a scenario where he's playing Agent 7 or whatever. And he's trying to, well, he's not trying to, well, he's trying to do whatever his mission is, but he's being chased. And you have the cop guy in there, which is going to be important. And then you have the actress character, whose name I cannot remember at this moment. But she's like, I know this is a dream, but I'm paid to play a role. That's really curious, because at first I thought, is there some sort of shared dream world that, like, everyone's dreaming? Are we going to be able to jump from one person's dream to another or something like that? But it seems like he's going to be entering specific people's dreams each week, because it's eventually revealed that it's the cop's dream that he's entering and is trying to save him. But I'm curious about the actress. Was that just dream logic or is she also somehow hired by somebody to come into this? I like the idea of her being hired and not knowing what's going on and just plays roles in dreams. Although that must be exhausting, working all day and going to sleep and dreaming about working. I guess if you love your job. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting. But the action at the beginning was really great. The beginning and the end. You know, I said the action last week was good, but this week felt like on the level of what they were doing with Gap. Like, we had some creative use of the dream logic, which I hope continues, but just some of the stunts and the slickness of it, especially like the beginning with the transformation and everything, and just some really great stunt work and action. And then especially at the end when you had the car chase or the motorcycle truck chase, I can't remember the last time Ryder had like a chase like that, because thinking back on anything like this, we don't really use the bikes all that often for fights, and usually if it's kind of a chase, it's usually when they have the big CGI bike chasing a CGI creature. So that was really fun and had so many like hell yeah moments, and it was just really cool. I really liked all the stunts in this episode. And then you get to kind of the middle of the episode after he wakes up, and I feel the middle part of the episode leaned a little more towards some humorous stuff, not like over-the-top cartoony stuff in terms of bringing in like weird effects or whatever, but like it felt very silly. It just, not that it felt tonally weird, because Ryder could be very silly, but I felt like his interactions with the cops and stuff, and him being like, I stepped in poo or whatever, I don't know, it just felt a little bit tonally clashy. I wish it was a little more balanced. I'm not sitting here being like, guys, this has to be serious, it needs to be on HBO Max. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know, tonally it just felt a little weird. I wish it was dialed in a little bit. Maybe it's just getting used to the characters and world. Maybe it's because the tone of this show feels so much like darker that it feels weird to see these characters act like they should be in Gap. I don't know, it was just weird. But I did like the interactions between him and the detectives, because I honestly didn't expect them to meet yet. I thought they were going to be investigating stuff and investigating him from afar, but then when he gets caught, he's immediately like, yeah, I woke up with this belt, don't know what's going on. And I like that it wasn't like, oh, you're clearly like a suspect, we're going to take you in. They just kind of shared information, and it was kind of funny. And they clearly set up like a Mulder-Scully dynamic between the detectives. I just hope, like, I don't mind having the skeptic character dynamic. I just hope that, I'm sorry, I'll learn their names eventually, but the female detective that is the skeptic, I just hope once stuff starts happening where like either she has a dream and is saved by Zeztz, or I could totally see her saying that was just a dream or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like when she starts experiencing stuff that's right in front of her face, that's when I'm going to need her to stop being skeptical, because one of my least favorite types of characters in fiction is the skeptic, sciencey character that will refuse to believe something that's right in front of their face, because in that case, they're the idiots. So I just hope that once she starts seeing like evidence of stuff, she doesn't become that person that just shuts everything down. But I do like that dynamic and her feeling like, oh, I got demoted to this paranormal unit, and all the talk about the paranormal unit was just reminding me of the show Wellington Paranormal, which is really underrated. But anyway, I liked the little dynamic there, and I'll be curious to see how Baku might work with them in the future and how they'll work in the show. I like them as like interesting extra cast members here. And then when he gets home, he gets a call on his Rider phone, which I have to say this is probably the slickest like Rider phone. Like usually they're answering like a giant spider in the middle of Target like it's normal. Like, hey, what do you got for me? It actually fits in as a normal phone. And then the voice for Zero, I had to say in this episode when he spoke English, it sounded like the voice from The Substance. I was ready for him to be like, respect the balance, 7 days each. And I like the touch of him being like, I only understand English in my dreams. And he's like, oh, sorry. And it leads him to the secret lair, which I really like the hideout. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Saber's. I don't know why, but I really do like the hideout here, and I love the bike. And then you have the Zero character presenting themselves, and they're talking from somewhere else through the robot. That's how I understand it. It's not like an AI in the robot, or maybe it is an AI, I don't know. But they're talking through the robot, so they're at a different location. That's what I understood, which is unique. Looks like he could fit in with Boom Boonja, to be honest with you. But I like his character so far, and the voice they use for it. It feels very different, even though it's the same voice, but like when they speak English and Japanese, and there's like a funny moment when he speaks English and he like makes a joke about like, oh, you have to ride me there, and it was just a witty joke. And I'm curious if they're doing the English parts because they're broadcasting it in America and other places. I mean, they do use English quite a lot in Toku, you know, for the belt noises and certain phrases and stuff. And that split second where someone speaks English when you've been watching a lot of Toku and you can't understand them somehow for a second, you're like, wait, what did they just say? I'm like, oh, that's my language. Anyway, I really like him. I like the setup for that. And he gives just enough context of what's going on. You know, the nightmares enter your dreams, and if they win, basically, then you're basically trapped in the sunken place and you never wake up. I'm curious what the benefit is for the nightmares. Are they just doing it for the love of the game, or is there some sort of benefit to that? You know, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Phantoms, the idea that Phantoms in the Wizard series would make you lose hope and then they get your body. So I'm going to assume that the monsters, the villains, are getting a benefit from getting people to go into a coma and whatnot. But I like what we have here where just the pacing of this, like we're getting just enough information so we know the context of what's going on. There's still a lot of mysteries, but it doesn't feel like we know everything, and I really like that. And like even in this episode, we got the capsules and stuff, like here's the gimmick, and he used it in a cool way. It was just a cool power gimmick and not a new form. But so far, the pacing has been solid. It doesn't feel like typical rushed Rider pacing. Even like with Gav, you know, Gav wasn't rushed at all. But Gav definitely did a good job of setting down the status quo earlier. And we have the status quo here, but it's not fully. Like, I appreciate that. They're not like, okay, we have to have all the pieces in place right away. So I really like the pacing of this series so far. And, you know, even though we had that tonally strange part in the middle where it was a little bit too much wackiness for me, just clashing, I just love the way this show feels in terms of the tone, the way it's shot. Reminds me of the way Rider used to feel. And not that it has to have the same tone every year, but I really hope we stick with this and this does well in the US for many reasons. But also just I love having Sentai and Rider feel like different shows. It's so distinctly different. And then at the end of the episode, you have him getting ready to destroy the nightmare, and they give all the context to the dreams, talking about, oh, dreams are subconscious stuff you didn't get to experience. And he has this revelation that, like, oh, the cop wants this bomb to go off, and he's trying to figure that out. So that's kind of interesting. I feel like it's unpacking the layers of dreams. Because, you know, there's people who can talk about dreams for hours, and there's been so many studies on it. You know, sometimes you dream about stuff you're worrying about. Sometimes you dream about a floating pancake. And you're like, where'd that come from? I didn't even see pancakes today. I don't know. So I'll be interested to see how that incorporates. I do think that there's a lot of interesting potential to be mined here from dreams in terms of, like, messages and storylines. And, yeah, I like the way it ended up. It's got a really good pace to it, where I feel like we're getting into the world, but we're not fully explaining everything yet. And we're kind of ending on these little cliffhangers and stuff to get us into the next episode, and I really like that. So yeah, I'm on board so far, guys. What do you think of the episode, mates? I'm sorry about that. I'll get out of the accent. So anyway, what did you guys think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Till next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.